Welcome to 3 Minute Gestalt. This is Unit 26 on character and personality systems. So having said that Gestalt is a phenomenological model, that means that we, as I say, don't slot people into particular boxes, and yet there is a human tendency to be fascinated with human boxes, whether it be astrology, whether it be systems like the Enneagram, which also partly came out of a Gestalt therapist, Claudio Naranjo, whether it be Neo-Reichian character systems, which come out of Reich's analysis of the body and the stages of development, and was then developed further by Alexander Lowen. Actually, there's many different personality systems. There's, I think, a book detailing like 20 or 30 of them, and they're all fascinating, and people love to go, oh, well, which number am I, or what type am I, or what star sign am I? And so I think there's this natural tendency to want to identify patterns of personality or patterns of character. And in some ways, that can be helpful in psychotherapy. We don't want to put people in boxes, we don't want to label them, we don't want to reduce them to categories. However, certain types of personality structures or tendencies that, if we recognize them, that can help us orient to some degree how we might work with someone. So I think there's value in that. I always want to take, though, a phenomenological approach, which is to say that we, first and foremost, want to work with the person, the individual in front of us. We want to work with their subjectivity, their experience, and not just slot them into pre-assigned categories or models or ideas of how human beings are divided up. And at the same time, if you've got enough of that, I think, phenomenological discipline, you can bracket your own ideas and theories and models, then it can be of value to some of those systems. Now, I mean, some of the systems have more scientific weighting than others. Most of them aren't really that scientifically validated, but nevertheless, they have an internal coherence, and sometimes they're very well developed, like the Enneagram, for instance. A lot of people use it to understand different types of people and their behavior, or the Myers-Briggs is another example. So I think these things are useful in terms of appreciating difference, and perhaps sometimes understanding people, well, that's how they are. I'm not going to change them that much. And the Gestalt paradoxical theory of change is oriented to not trying to change people too much anyway. So the existential approach really wants to be with people as they are and allow them to develop and grow out of that. So I've particularly found, for instance, that Neo-Reichian model of character development useful because it references the body, and it references relationship, and it says, well, at different stages of development, and I said Gestalt itself doesn't have a developmental model, but at different stages of the development of a child and the development of a child with their caregivers, there's different stages of embodiment, one could say, and you can sort of see different ways in which people are embodied, and that does tend to fall into certain kind of characters. Some people who have less of a sense of a right to be in their life tend to be less embodied. Other people might have been crushed in their by the parents or something, given too much guidance or too much input, and then their musculature condenses. So we can be interested in these kind of structures for helping us understand people, and I think it can marry well with a phenomenological model. The danger is always, though, that people fall in love with these theories and they kind of want to pre-assign people to categories, whereas I think to some degree they can be useful as forms of dialogue with some clients to say, well, this seems to be a pattern of behavior or a way of being in the world. I just saw a client who we were discussing the ways in which they're very mercurial, they kind of very flexible and adaptable. And of course, that's a wonderful thing in many regards. And at the same time, sometimes that can produce a sort of a thinness in terms of their ability to ground and be solidly in relationship. So we were looking at the ways in which their energy kind of moves up when they get stressed or excited, and the ways in which we might experiment with moving the energy down and grounding. Now, you don't need personality systems to provide that kind of analysis, but it does provide a sort of a general reference point with some people's energies, further up in their body, and some people are more able, and in fact, kind of get stuck. Their energy can't move. They have the opposite problem. So, I'm saying both things are relevant. A phenomenological model, which works with people's experience, and to some degree these structural models, as long as you don't believe in them too much or fall in love with them too much. Useful to know about them, but as with all theories in Gestalt, we want to hold them very lightly.